Conservative New Media viewers, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, the 4-time national champion, the super genius, and the political expert, joined by Paul F. Villarreal. Now, we're talking about the Republican debate. I think this was the 5th or something like that. This was held on CNN December 15th, and this was a big showdown. We've had Cruz that has been moving up in certain polls, like Iowa specifically, and we've had Donald Trump that has been moving up tremendously, and he's just had some serious dominance, Paul, hitting high 30s and even low 40s in the Monmouth poll here, and this was supposed to be some kind of showdown. A lot happened in the debate, and I'm going to give my instant reaction, and then we'll have some discussion about it. As I have put on my Facebook post and on the Conservative New Media Facebook group post, I felt like Donald Trump, in my opinion, won this debate. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Now, people, oh, what about this? Listen, the way I judge these debates, okay, is who needed to do what and what shape are they in after this debate. It's not so much about little specific debating points in this part of this bill and stuff. No. What is the overall political effect, because this is a political contest, of their debate performance? Donald Trump's way up top, okay? He basically can play a prevent defense. I'm not saying that he should or that he will or anything like that. I'm saying that he could even lose a little bit off this debate and still be fine. And what he needed to do was avoid a major blunder, some kind of thing that would allow Cruz to have some kind of parity, or for him to diminish himself, or some kind of big stumble, whatever. Now, none of those things have been able to really affect Donald Trump so far. And in fact, a lot of the quote-unquote gaffes that the media have said that he has committed have only made Donald Trump stronger. And again, I'm not taking a position on any of those things. There's a lot of things that Donald Trump says that I don't agree with, that I certainly wouldn't say or anything like that. But the point is I'm analyzing this simply politically, and also trying to look at what has happened in this race and talk about it honestly, okay? And that's what I think we need to do. I think there's so many people of the mainstream media and the chattering class and the political consultants that have been in total denial about what's going on here, Paul. And now you have the reality that's starting to stare him in the face, dude. First of all, I have to say, all my personal opinion only, knowledge and facts, not casting aspersions, all for entertainment purpose only. Please check the disclaimers. But breaking down this debate, there was some people that thinking it was going to be Cruz versus Trump. This is Cruz's chance to really take out Trump or stand on the same stage, continue gaining momentum, set up the win in Iowa and all this type of stuff. That, in my opinion, absolutely didn't happen. What I think you saw here is Donald Trump hit another gear, okay, for several reasons, and I'm going to get to that. The second thing is Cruz stumbled badly in one part in particular, and I think actually in a couple parts. And I'll get to that as well. Cruz did have his good moments. I think Rand Paul had a couple moments, although I don't think his campaign has enough strength to really. I think he has his role, he has his niche. I think he hit that, but I think that's kind of it for Rand Paul. I think that Marco Rubio had some very strong points, and I think he came off very well in certain points. I think it's to me, the interesting dynamic right here is the debate and the distinction of who's going to be number 2, really, the alternative to Donald Trump. And I think that you had this interchange on national security and immigration and some different things like that, and war policy between Cruz, Rubio, and Rand Paul. And I think that's an interesting discussion. Obviously, other people joined in that debate. I think Chris Christie sort of survives, if you will. I don't think he has gained any momentum. I think he's there. He's part of the conversation. But I still think, he really struggles to, Donald Trump sort of sucks all the oxygen out of, the Christie persona, the tough talking, truth teller, however you want to say that is. And I think Christie has something. There's some things there, but there's a lot of weaknesses there too. And so I think he kind of stayed in place, but he had some good moments as well. And the others, I think the one thing coming out of this is in my opinion, and I've felt this way for a while, but I think the door's really, if it's not fully closed, it's like this for Bush. I think it's over for Bush. I think that ship is sailed. It's over for those insiders. Just, he tried to attack Trump. Whether you want to say he was, set up or baited by CNN, whatever you want to say, I mean, it was awful. He tried to act tough. Trump crushed him again. He started hitting some lines before they even Wolf even got the question out or something like that, or one of the questioners got the question out and say, oh, wait till I ask the question. I mean, he just looked horrible. He looked horrible. I mean, no energy, trying to act tough, tired, canned lines. It's old school. It's done. It's over. People don't want another Bush. They don't want those policies. The policies of all these, and Trump hit on it when they tried to talk to him about his foreign policy. It's like, and I think that I know I'm going real fast here, but I'm thinking about a lot of things. What people try to say, oh, Trump doesn't have the experience in the foreign policy. This is where we're going to trip him up and stuff like that. But when Trump talked about our policy in the Middle East under President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and what's come of it, and a sort of optimistic versus realistic look, and what foreign policy camp you're in, and all this type of stuff. And I think what Trump's approach was very businesslike. And you can call it a realist, you can call it whatever, which is, look, we've spent whatever it is, $3-4 trillion plus, thousands of lives, all these wars. What do we have to show for it? No meaningful, serious long-term gains. ISIS is on the rise. Iraq's a mess. Libya's a mess. Egypt's a mess. Israel's threatened. We don't have any oil for it, and we're amassed we've been amassed in these wars. I mean, Afghanistan. When are we going to get out of there? And now they're talking about more and more wars. Now, whatever your position is, and that we have fight them there and then fight them here, whatever, we can have all these different debates. But as a factual matter, that's sort of tough to just look away from. Okay, I mean, as a factual matter, we've spent the money, we've spent the lives, we've spent the time. What do we have to show for it? And I think that, Donald Trump's saying that, listen, as a business person, where's the return on investment? Why are we doing that? Isn't that money better spent here? And I think that it's a different argument. It's a different thing than saying it's this isolationism, or as some people may want to accuse, let's say, a Rand Paul of being. It's an argument of what's the return on investment? I mean, I think Trump's very strong, and he talks about, I want to go after ISIS, and he has all these different policies and stuff like that. We can debate that. But I think there's something very, I don't want to say simplistic, because I don't feel that that's a fair characterization. I think there's something that is just intrinsic that hits home on people and say, yeah, that doesn't make sense. If I've got it's like if I have a bad car and it's got 3, tires that are flat, I don't keep throwing, a bunch of money to supercharge the engine, because it's not going anywhere. And I think that's kind of the thing there. Trump is saying, hey, listen, this isn't working. We need something that's going to work. We need to work with our partners here. Whether it's his other statements of I'm going to get Mexico to build a wall, all this type of stuff. I think it's a thinking of, listen, we need to do what's in America's interest here. We need to do things that are going to make sense. We need to look at things a different way. And I think it's a different option. It may sound like what Washington has heard before, but it really is different. Paul, do you understand what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, I do understand. Look, there was a lot to digest. A lot happened. I agree with you. I think Trump is getting better and better at campaigning and making political arguments, even though that's not his background. But as you know, he's been around the party for a long time, so it's not like he has no experience with it, but just kind of doing it in a professional campaigning type of way. It doesn't make sense. You can simplify some of these really tortured arguments about why we're here and there and this other place or whatever. That is true. It needs to make sense on a basic level. And look, I agree with you. I think Trump is just getting... he's hitting another level. We're seeing that in some of the polls. You saw it in the debate performance tonight. Again, I praised Cruz in one of the earlier debates and one of the videos that we did. I can't remember, maybe it was the second debate. I thought he really improved and whatever. But now it's starting to wear on me a little bit. It's more like, he is a good debater. He is a smart guy. But there's a certain aspect of him that, just my own personal opinion, it almost feels flim-flammy or as I told you before, like the sham wow guy. There's just kind of a I don't know. It's just kind of the wishy-washiness or something.
Kind of like a fake or a cheesy kind of aspect to it. I mean, I've said it before. Yeah. I've said it for a long time. I've said it a long time ago to others in in the political realm, stuff like that. And Ted Cruz is extremely smart, very smart guy. I have a lot of respect for him, but his mannerisms sometimes, not to bring myself into this, but I'm a super genius, I'm super smart, everything like that. I try, and you can tell me, man, I can't see myself. I mean, you can tell me, Paul, and others can tell me whatever. I pride myself and try extremely hard to never talk down or look down on anyone. Never to come off like, oh, you're really not so smart, I'm smart. I don't try to get over on people. I don't try to fool people. Obviously, if I'm doing a YouTube a video that's designed to be something funny or a skit or some kind of sketch, that's different, okay? I'm talking about in real life, I'm talking about the vast majority of my videos, which are, this is what's up, this is straight to the point, here's, honest from the heart, whatever it is. And I feel like with Ted Cruz, that to me, it feels like he's putting on an act most of the time. And that just rubs me the wrong way. As much as I respect him, as much as I feel like he's a really brilliant guy, everything like that, and very accomplished, it just rubs me the wrong way, because you have to ask yourself, in my opinion, if you believe that, if you agree with me, one, why is he doing that? Does he think that I'm stupid? Does he think the American public's stupid? Does he think that he's going to get over? Does he think it works? So what does he think? What is Ted? If you believe that, what does Ted Cruz think about me or the public that he wants to do that? Number one. And number two, which is quite related to it, and again, this is all on the fly, no edit, stuff like that, so hopefully I'm not making the same exact point. Why is he afraid just to be himself and honest with the American people? So I guess they're very related, but slightly different. In other words, do you think you're going to fool us? Do you think that people don't understand, don't see through that, can't see the effect that you're doing if you believe that? And two, why can't you just be straight, bro? That's what I'm talking about. The thing that it's working for Trump, and I think it has worked for Carson, and really is working for Cruz too, because Cruz is part of that, the outsider crew that's against Washington, is that people want to be treated like adults. They want to be treated with respect. They want to be treated like they're on the same level. You're asking for our votes. At the end of the day, you may be the leader, the president, whatever. You work for us. We're that's how it works, okay? We vote for you and stuff like that. Now, the point is that with Trump, I think that the approach is, listen, I'm going to make America great again. I want to do something great for the country. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need anything like that. The lobbyists aren't going to control him. He's trying to use common sense. His approach is, okay, maybe he's not a great politician or in terms of the experience level and this and that, whatever, although I think he's done amazingly well, and I think he's shown exactly how good he is. But I think it's the thing, Paul, like, listen, maybe he makes a statement outrageous that we say, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that, I don't agree with it, whatever like that. But I think he's coming from a place where it's like, I want to do what's right for the American people, and I'll leave it to the experts, and we'll figure it out, we'll make it right, we'll make it legal, whatever, all that type of stuff. He doesn't have all the answers right now. And I'm not trying to make excuses for him. Donald Trump can speak for himself. But I think that's people, his supporters understand that, and I feel like that's the place that he's coming from, and I think he's getting that across. Now, why I think he won this debate, quote unquote, won this debate, is I feel like he said, first of all, he's going to run as a Republican. He left that at the end. He kind of set that up, and I think he just really ran with it and just. That was a home run right there. I'm going to be a Republican, whatever. That's a big headline that's going to come out of this. I think Drudge is running with that now. And the other thing is, he didn't take the bait at all for this fight with Ted Cruz and stuff like that. And I think when he was, and the third part of it is when he was pressed by the questioners about what about this, what about that, what about this, with the foreign policy stuff, some of which I've already talked about. He had stuff that made sense. It's like, okay, so you can get caught in the weeds of isolationists and all this type of stuff, and all these little arguments that we've all heard for years and years and years. But at the end of the day, we spent this much money, and this many lives and this many years, and what do we have to show for it? The place is a mess, and there's almost nothing to say to it. And that's why I think those three things and the optics of crushing Bush when he tried to get against him, come against him, but again, not being, I don't think he was a bully or whatever. He was actually pretty mellow, pretty reserved, and very calm. And that interchange with Trump, it just looked like he was in command, Paul. And I think he's taken this next level, a different gear here. And I think that it is, at this point, I definitely believe it is Trump's nomination to lose. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's been that way for a while now. I think Cruz is kind of the last little, as we talked about before off of camera, it's basically like the fill-in for Ben Carson now, after Ben Carson went down. I do think it's Trump's nominations to lose. I think that Trump, as you kind of mentioned here from what you said,
well, Paul,
connects with people.
Let me just say,
way.
Paul, let me just say something super quick. Sorry, because I want you to react to this. Cruz made, in my opinion, a critical mistake and repeated it. That plays into what we said before. There was some interchange there. I mean, I think Cruz was trying to really capture lightning in a bottle, as he did before in the last debate, and going against the moderators, and it's all of us. And I think that Cruz had a couple lines, a couple things that he wanted to get across. There was a lot of lightning between Cruz and Rubio and Paul. There was some interesting interchange there, and I think that kind of rattled Cruz a little bit. I think Marco did very well, although Marco had some things he had to defend too. So I think that was very interesting. That was really where the action was, in my opinion. But there was a couple times, I can't remember exactly, where Cruz was just, almost filibustering and wanted to keep talking, and they cut him off, and he kept going, and there was literally this battle back and forth for control between the moderator and Cruz. And I think even the audience at some point was just like, he just wasn't going to be stopped, but it was just, in my opinion, almost out of control, and optically it just looked really bad, and he repeated a part of that again, not the same thing, but the same kind of thing at the end. And I think after that, you could just see optically, it's almost reminded me of that, Nixon Kennedy, debate, whatever, where you could see the sweat on Cruz, you could just see his face, and it almost was like, the mask or the sham wow or whatever came down. It's like, oh, now it was a lot more visible, where people could see sort of maybe that other side. And now it's, you think, okay, wait a minute, the Cruz is maybe a little impolitic there. Maybe he looked bad. Maybe he didn't look, and now he looks So it's not only was some people might call him rude or whatever, didn't look good or whatnot, but it also kind of maybe exposed maybe the politician in him, maybe the fakeness or whatever like that. And then he looked weak. I think that combined where it's like, Cruz had some good moments, don't get me wrong. I think he'll do, he's still doing well, and I still have a lot of respect for him, but I think that hurt him very badly in this debate, Paul.
Yeah, you don't want to come off looking like you're just a member of the debate team trying to get your last little points in, and you're kind of like whiny about it. That's never, like you said, that's not good optics, and I do think there was a little bit of that. What I was saying before is that I think Trump connects with people on a more kind of a visceral and base level than the other guys do, including Ted Cruz, and it's because he has less of a flim-flam to him. Of course, Trump's an entertainer. He's boisterous and whatever, but he's also very straight up.
He's a showman, but he's not fake.
People had years to connect with him. They know they understand how he comes across, and then they're comfortable with it.
I agree with that. And Cruz reminded me of Kasich, that maybe a couple debates ago, where he was just gonna jump in no matter what, and this and that, whatever, and show it, and it just came off so bad. But I think it came off worse for Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz is so smart. He was a Harvard lawyer. He has argued in front of the Supreme Court. You expected a different level of polish. And I think this debate may have humbled Ted Cruz, and maybe he can learn from this and take it to the next level. I think that Donald Trump, likes Ted Cruz, and if Donald Trump's elected president, maybe we see Ted Cruz in the cabinet. Maybe we see Ted Cruz as a running mate. Who knows? You know what I mean? Ted Cruz is gonna, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna live to fight again. But I think this was a bad moment. There was some great moments. I'm not saying it's just all about debate, being polite, this, that. No, not at all. But I think that those gaffes, if you believe they're gaffes, played into some existing concerns and potential weaknesses for Ted Cruz, which I believe is one of the reasons why Donald Trump lays back in the debates, because people think that he's a bully, and he's boisterous, and he's rude, and we don't need the temperament and the judgment, so he plays it cool. He plays against type. He understands how to shift gears. It's just like if you're a pitcher and you could be Nolan Ryan or Roger Clemens and always throwing fastball. Guess what? At some point, someone's going to wait on your fastball and they're going to take it for a home run. You have to have another pitch or another couple pitches. You at least need one or two more pitches if you're going to be a great major league pitcher. Whether it's a changeup, a slider, whatever it might be, a curveball. So I think that Ted Cruz needs to really think about it and do some soul searching. And he needs to evolve his game if he's really going to challenge Donald Trump for this nomination at this late date. In the same way, I felt like Carly Fiorina has some struggles. Carly's great. We like Carly. I've interviewed her several times before, and I think that that she's a lot of very accomplished stuff like that, and I'm glad she's in this race. But I feel like a lot of her stuff comes off a little bit too much like reading the PowerPoints. At this point, we need an evolution. We need some more fluidity. She's very, very smart. Like I said, I like Carly a lot, but we need to see an evolution of that game. Bush, I feel, is just done. I don't think he can get much better. I don't think there is another speed for Jeb Bush in this election cycle. I think that all that old rule books, that we have all the money and the TV ads, and I've been a governor, and wait your turn and all, that's done. That's on. That's over. Kasich, why are you there? Bro, get out. And that's part of the problem, too. In order for these insiders to have any credible challenge to Donald Trump, we got to get a lot of these people out of the way. And so whether you want, Rubio or whoever to be your standard bearer, now let's talk about Rubio. Rubio, I think, there's going to be an interesting discussion now, right? Between security versus liberty, the immigration issues, all these different things coming up. And I think Rubio has a great personal story. I think he showed he's very telegenic, shows himself to be very likable. He's very smart. He's got great energy. I think he brings a lot to the table. I think he had some very, very good moments tonight. But I think there's also some weaknesses there. What about the Gang of Eight and all these different types of things that were coming up? And I think that Rand Paul also brings up some good points. And I'm glad, Rand Paul, maybe some people say, well, why was he there? I think Rachel Maddow had a big thing about that. But I'm glad that he was there to keep bringing up this point of there's some people that were so mad about what Donald Trump says. And again, I don't agree with that, and I've written something on my Facebook post and everything like that. What I feel like and stuff like that. I've always, we're anti-discrimination for everybody. We think America is for everybody, land of immigrants, land of opportunity, and all that type of stuff. And if you want to know more of what I said, you can go to my Facebook post. And we've always stood for that, and everybody knows that. We got a global audience, and we love everybody. But also, people have to be safe and all that type of stuff. And that's the operative question here. So the thing is what Rand Paul was saying is, listen, okay, you're against, and Donald Trump was saying some stuff too. And Donald Trump had a really good line, and he crushed the debate monitors. I'll get to that in a second. About okay, and I'm not saying Rand Paul said this, but I'm going to bring in part of what Rand Paul says. You can slam what Donald Trump said or whatever, but then your response is, okay, well, we can't do that. But instead of doing that, we're just going to surveil everybody and look at everybody's emails or capture all the metadata, or however you want to capture, however you want to shade it. All I know is that what the American people and what the world has found out in the last 5 some odd years is that there's a whole lot of stuff that the government and spy agencies know that maybe people might not be super comfortable with and may not be something that gives us, the kind of liberties and privacy and freedom that we're comfortable with. Okay, and so I don't understand. I mean, to me, that's a very hard position to defend. Okay, we don't want to focus, however you want to do it, obviously you got to make it, correct and legal and everything like that. But I mean, okay, well, you have to have your, security, but we also have to have our freedoms too. And this is the debate. What is the proper interchange? I don't think you can say, oh, we don't want to do X, Y, or Z, but hey, let's just surveil everybody. Well, guess what? Not only do I think that's wrong in terms of privacy, freedom, and everything like that, but it hasn't really worked that great. Now, I'm sure there's tons of things and tons of stuff that they've been stopping that we don't know about, and that's their job, and that's fantastic. But you understand what I'm saying right there, Paul? I'm glad and I think that's something that, Rubio and others that would sign up for that, with those votes, are going to have to continue to answer from a Paul or Cruz. The last thing I want to say before I turn it back over to you is, Donald Trump, they were talking about, they were trying to get him, I feel like they were trying to trap him. Maybe they would say they were trying to clarify. I feel like they were trying to trap him something about like, you want to shut down the internet and stuff. And he's like, no, listen, these people are trying to kill, and the audience was at some point, he's like, are you kidding me? These people are trying to kill us. You're telling me we shouldn't send some people over there, our technology experts, to figure out how to hack them, infiltrate or whatever, just to get good operative intelligence? That's common sense. And that's what I'm talking about. I think Donald Trump he's breaking away from this classic left, right, or libertarian, neocon, or however you want to say it, different debates, and just trying to say, look, what makes sense? Now, does Donald Trump say some stuff that, in my opinion, I don't want to say it, do I disagree with? Yes. Do I think is said it wrong? Yes. Do I think do I even condemn a lot of it? Yes, and we have, and we will. Okay. But I think that, not being a politician and someone that just doesn't talk to a lot of political consultants, doesn't poll test everything, just speaks from the cup, he does, say some stuff that, frankly, I would say, and kindly, is quite ill-advised. But I think he's trying to get to a common sense way of just solving things. And I think that people understand where he's coming from and give him the benefit of the doubt. And let's be clear here, those on the left and those on the mainstream media, we've had plenty of politicians on both sides, particularly on the left, that say all kinds of silly things. Can we talk about Vice President Joe Biden? Okay, please. And a lot of other folks that we let slide and stuff like that. That doesn't mean that Donald Trump doesn't need to get better, especially if he's going to be president and leader of the free world and stuff like that. Doesn't mean that we want to denigrate any religions or anything like that. We're not saying that. But, let's keep everything in perspective. Paul, what do you say about that?
Yeah, look, I think that Donald Trump is trying to be more kind of cut through some of the political speak and make things simpler. I agree with that. I do think that there are questions in terms of the surveillance, national security aspect versus freedom and liberty. I certainly understand what Donald Trump is saying about technology as regards to ISIS. I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, like those guys seem to have very sophisticated marketing and other campaigns, and that should be interrupted. I mean, I don't think anybody'd really be against that. If they thought about it, it's not about shutting down the internet. So I think, like I said, I think it was a good performance for him, and I think he's sailing forward, whereas everybody else is trying to play catch up. And as you said, I don't know if anybody made a lot of headway tonight, in that regard.
This is a very interesting process. We have a long ways to go, but it's also getting pretty late. I feel at this point, political analysis-wise, that this is Donald Trump's nomination to lose. I think Bush is out of it. Kasich is out of it. Rand Paul is out of it, but he'll hang out a little bit longer. Carly needs a miracle super quick, and I mean, she's probably out of it too. And Bush, like I said, is out of it. So really, this comes down right now. I'm not willing to say it's a three-person race because I don't think it's quite that yet. I think you have Trump. I think you have Carson that is still around there, because if Cruz goes down, Carson can go right back up, because that's what Carson's people went over to Cruz in large part, right? Cruz is there. Rubio is there. Christie has to work extremely quickly and do something big in New Hampshire to keep in this conversation, or he's out too. So I would say right now it's probably a 4-person race, maybe 5. Okay, and I'm sure, you know, Bush isn't going anywhere. I mean, I'm talking about who's viable. I'm sure a lot of these people are going to hang in the race for a variety of reasons. Maybe they think that they can catch lightning later, they have the money, they can last them out, whatever. Who knows? You know, but I think that it's really down to about 4 or 5 people right now. But I think that the reason why this was such a great debate for Donald Trump is he showed another gear. He showed, listen, I'll shave the edges off this. I'll moderate some of these positions, some of these bombastic statements, as he has before. But the kernel of what he said, you know, we're going to find, you know, the sort of common sense of what he's trying to get at, you know, he maintains, which is, you know, we got to look at immigration, we got to look at security, you know, all this type of stuff. And he'll, you know, he'll put people around him to help him, you know, do it correctly and do it great, as he has with almost all of his business deals. Right? I mean, Donald Trump builds great buildings. He's not out there building them. I mean, yeah, he pays for them and stuff like that, but he's got an architect and he's got engineers. He hires a bunch of great people and stuff like that. And I think that's probably the way that he's looking at these situations. Now, again, if you're going to be president of the United States, you need to, you know, words do matter. You got to watch, you know, what you say, and you have to say it right and everything like that. So, you know, and I think he kind of said that to Chris Cuomo in the interview afterwards, which is like, listen, I've only been at this for 6 months. I'm getting better at it. I'm learning. He's getting respect for other people and stuff like that. I think Ted Cruz may have gotten humble tonight. We're going to see if he can improve his game. Marco Rubio, you know, I mean, it's going to be, it's much like in MMA or boxing or in football or basketball or a lot of other sports and in life. Paul, a lot of times it comes down to what adjustments can you make. I would say if we're going to use, you know, a football analogy, we're into the 4th quarter now. The question is, can these other candidates make the adjustments? What's Donald Trump going to do? And where's it going to go from here? That's kind of how I look at it. What do you think about that, to wrap it up?
Yeah, look, I think it's at best a 30-person race right now. I think Carson's done. I think Carly's out. Christie's out. Bush is out. I think it's down to Trump, Cruz, and Rubio is kind of like the insider who might be able to come down late. I think that's what it is. I think Trump's in the right position to win it, and I think he did a good job tonight, just kind of solidifying that. So,
I love it. I know you guys are going to have a lot to say. What do you think about that? You let us know your comments. You agree with us? You disagree with us? Who do you think won? Who do you think lost? Where do you think it goes from here? What's your take on it? Let us know. Give us the comments below. Please subscribe. Please rate this video up. Also, please post it on your social networking sites. Thanks so much for watching. I'm John D. Villarreal, the 4-time national champion and the Super Genius and the political expert. That is Paul Villarreal. You're watching Conservative Media. We'll see you next time.